Hello, everyone. Happy holidays. Welcome to Better Plays Ahead, powered by the Game Day. We're here breaking down the Week 16 NFL slate. Stay tuned to the end of the episode to hear our Thursday night football picks for tonight. Sam, I'm joined here by Sam Wagman. How are you doing, Sam?
Good as always, man. Happy to get to the weekend, all the holiday stuff, and then we're coasting on the edge to the end of the regular season. It's a great time. Great day to be great.
Great day to be great. Your Eagles are likely to really hammer the Giants this week. They're going to bounce back. I think that'll cheer you up a little bit, bring you some holiday cheer. But
I absolutely need it. Trust me. The last few weeks have not been pleasant.
yeah, it's been a tough stretch. We see you in the chat. What's up, Jeff? Great to see you. Thank you for listening. Before we jump into the content, I need to remind all the listeners and viewers to go to thegameday.com, check out our FanDuel promotions. There's a lot of great promos there that you could use on the many betting markets at FanDuel. We all love that site. There's lots of options there, great odds boosts. Check it out. But to start it off, we're going to go with the chalkboard. This is where we choose a popular favorite that a lot of people may be on, but we're still riding with it because we like it. And I'm starting us off. I like the 49ers -5.5 at home against the Ravens. San Francisco is the best team in football, and especially at home, they are very dominant. So check out this stat. With Brock Purdy and Trent Williams both in the lineup, the 49ers are 10-0 with a plus 199 point differential at home. 9 of those wins were by double digits. 1 of them was by 7. We only need the Niners to beat the Ravens by 6 or more. Look, I get it. Baltimore is likely right now the best team in the AFC, but I don't think they could hang with this 49ers offense, especially with San Fran at home. Like I've been saying, I think they're the clear-cut favorite to win the Super Bowl, and I'm going to continue to ride them here. We just need them by a touchdown, and we're good.
I want to just draw your attention to the list of teams that the 49ers have gone 10-0 against. All right? You have the Cardinals twice. You have the Seahawks twice. You have the Buccaneers, the Giants, the Rams, the Steelers. I don't know. I think this is a little bit inflated again in favor of the 49ers here. I'm just trying to play devil's advocate
I
at
love
this
this
point.
rebuttal. It's good.
And
it's a good one.
I love playing devil's advocate here because this is by far the best team that the 49ers are going to face this regular season. I think Baltimore, I haven't been shy. I think Baltimore is the best team in the NFL. The Eagles obviously were caught by surprise on the end of a very long road trip and a hellish schedule that they had to face in the months of October and November. Just all came to a crashing halt against the 49ers. And, I don't think the Jaguars are that good. So, I'm finding it too tough to believe that the 49ers are just the clear-cut best team in the NFL, despite the fact that Baltimore seems to lose a guy for the season every single week at this point. We just lost Keaton Mitchell for the season, which really, really makes me sad. And obviously all the other running back luck and losing Mark Andrews. I still think Lamar Jackson's going to end up winning the MVP. I still think Baltimore's going to end up with the best regular season record in the NFL. I still think they are the best team with the best defense. And I honestly think they're not only going to cover, I think they're going to win this game outright. So I'm gonna push back a little bit here against you there. I have a couple other thoughts, on props that we can talk about later in the show. But I'm going to continue to fade the narrative that the 49ers are just this super team, just because they're all pro left tackle and they're Mr. Irrelevant quarterback who's propped up by the rest of this team is the main reason for it.
Well, hey, that's why you come to listen to the show. Better Plays Ahead here. We got good debate. That's a perfect rebuttal that you laid out your case. I can't really push back on anything you've said. I just really am a big believer in this 49ers team, but you raised some definite fair points, and it's going to be a hell of a matchup. I think we both could agree on that one. Before we go into It's a Trap, we got a question in the chat. Are we sure on Justin Fields over Matthew Stafford this week? Justin Fields at home against Arizona. That game I think has a 43-point total. Chicago should be able to move the ball, and Fields has huge rushing upside. This is a game where, he's got a real high ceiling, whereas Stafford definitely does not have that ceiling against the Saints. I think they'll have more success on the ground, which we'll touch on later. But do you agree
Yeah,
with Fields over?
I do agree there, and all of our content over on thegameday.com also agrees with that. Taking this from our start sit, weekly piece that our writer Michelle Majuk does for us. Justin Fields is one of her favorite plays this week, and the Cardinals have allowed the second most rushing yards in the NFL this year, and I wouldn't be surprised if Fields is able to put up, over 100 yards on the ground on Sunday. He's an easy top 5 quarterback for me. Stafford is going to be a very, very safe floor piece. Wouldn't be shocked. He's a top 12 QB for me, but he doesn't carry the upside that Fields gives you. So I would, if you're in the fantasy playoffs, you want to score the most points possible, I would go with Fields here.
Yeah, totally agree. And that goes with a great segue to our next segment. It's a trap, where we look at a fishy line and we tell you that you should, roll with it. Like, don't be worried about it. The fishy line that you're thinking here is the Cardinals +4 at the Bears, and you like Chicago. So you can expand even more about what you're saying about Fields, which I agree.
Yeah, and on the surface, this doesn't seem like as much of a fishy line as I'm kind of making it out to be. Like, obviously, Chicago, not a world beater out here. Like, the fact that they're favored is kind of surprising, but it is against Arizona, so the surprise gets mitigated there. But I will say, I think the Cardinals have been propped up a lot. Kyler Murray has played all right, but he hasn't played great. He's obviously not working with great personnel over there. Hollywood Brown has been in and out of the lineup. Trey McBride has really been the only offensive piece worth playing against. And the Bears have been really good at containing the tight end recently. So, that worries me a little bit, in that I'm not sure what the Cardinals are going to be able to do here to move the ball. The Bears have quietly been a top 5 defense, both against the run and against the pass, but especially against the run, which is where the Cardinals figure to do a lot of damage between James Conner and Kyler Murray. They've quietly been the best defense against the run by DVOA over the last 5 weeks, outpacing pretty much everyone in the NFL by multiple decimal points there. So, another reason I'm really looking at this is that there's 64% of the bets are on the Cardinals, but 57% of the money is on the Bears in this matchup to cover the spread. That's a clear red flag to me when the public is leaning one side, but the sharps are wildly on the other side there. So you need to keep an eye out for that. The sharps tend to know, a little bit more, have a little bit, sharper eye view of what's going to happen in these games. And the Bears really should have a good game plan for the Cardinals. Limit the run game at all costs. Try and limit McBride through the middle of the field, and then put DJ Moore out there against zone coverage that the Cardinals are really, really weak against. And then let Justin Fields just run wild, like we said before. Let him do his thing. Put all those designed runs out there. That is when the Bears and Fields are at their best. You have a coaching staff in Chicago that is desperate to keep their jobs if it's still possible. I expect them to come right out here and definitely win this game going away.
Yeah, I love that. The Bears, since they traded for Montez Sweat, that defense has really taken off, as you mentioned. And hey, they could have a better record than what they have. Number one, Fields missed some time. And secondly, they've blown a bunch of games against Denver, against Detroit, even against Cleveland last week. So this isn't a case where, when you see 2 bad teams, just take the points. No, the Bears are probably better than the record, and I'm with you. They should win this game. Let's move on to the betting board. This is where we lay out 2 each of our favorite picks for the week. I'm going to start us off. I'm going with the Kansas City Chiefs at home, -10 versus the Raiders. Now, a few weeks ago, I had the Raiders covering against the Chiefs, if you remember, on one of our shows together. That didn't work out, and now I'm riding with the Chiefs. It really is this simple. Kansas City at home against a familiar opponent and their division rival Raiders that they have dominated. They've won 6 straight against the Raiders. 4 of those games were by double digits. Even that game earlier this year on the road, The Raiders jumped out to an early lead, and the Chiefs still won by 14. Mahomes averaged like 8.8 yards per attempt in that game. I think, especially for fantasy players, this is going to be your long-awaited like Patrick Mahomes smash game, spike week, where he really, produces to where he was taken in fantasy. So he's going to help you in the playoffs there, I really think. I think the Chiefs will roll in this game. It's also, you could look at it as a letdown for the Raiders after putting up, like 60 plus points and beating the Chargers by over 40. I think they just really can't hang with Kansas City here. And this is a real statement win. Well, not statement in the sense that they're beating a good opponent. It's just like a game where everything clicks and they blow out a much weaker team in the Raiders. So give me the Chiefs -10.
Yeah, we'll see what happens here. I do think this is going to be actually a good game statistically. Offensively on both sides. Both sides have pieces of their offense that are very, very in exploitative situations against the other team's defense. Rashee Rice on the Chiefs going against zone coverage, one of the best receivers in the NFL against zone this week, and then obviously Devontae Adams against man. Like Devontae Adams is the best receiver in the NFL against man coverage. I don't think there's another receiver I would rather have over him, one-on-one. So I think there's going to be a lot of points scored in this game. That's why I kind of have the Raiders covering in this game, but it's not a play that I would make confidently. It's just, I think this is going to be a little bit of a closer game, back and forth than people think. I don't think it's too out of the picture that the Chiefs cover this. It is just a large number to me. So, if I had to pick a side, I would probably go with the Raiders, but I can see the arguments made for the Chiefs. They're desperate to clinch, a playoff spot, get back on track. Last week's win against the Patriots was a good win, but still there are questions. There, are things to be taken care of with this Chiefs team that is going to look to defend their Super Bowl title. So, I expect them to win this game. I don't expect them to win it convincingly.
Yeah, fair points for sure. It should be exciting. I'm with you. I love Rashee Rice this week. I love what you're seeing from him, finally getting full route participation. We got a nice comment in the chat. Thank you, Tom. We love your content as well. Appreciate the kind words.
Thank you, Tom.
Moving on to your betting board pick. It's the running back who I was low on in fantasy, and he really burned me. And it was perfect. He burned me in my fantasy playoffs by just exploding and kicking me out. And that's James Cook. You like him over on his longest reception.
Yeah, I mean, and how can you not like him at this point? It's pretty clear that the offensive coordinator switch to Joe Brady has just energized Cook because he's not exactly seeing more touches. His touches have actually gone down from 51 to 46% of the rush of the running back touches over the last few weeks, as they've kind of been more willing to cycle around the touches. They've mixed in Latavius Murray and even Ty Johnson here. Notice that Leonard Fournette has not seen a single touch, which is probably one of my biggest misses of the in-season fantasy aspect of there. I was really hoping that Fournette still had something. It's pretty clear to me at this point that if he can't even make it ahead of Ty Johnson, there's a problem. So he's clearly there just for depth. Anyways, it's clear to me that Cook is seeing so much more of the high value touches. He's seeing a lot of passing game work. He's seeing all of that. So I'm really confident in that we're going to see a play from Cook this week, where he gets there on the ground and through the air. And this bet that I'm making where he gets there through the air is specifically due to the fact that the Chargers are one of the worst teams against running backs through the air this season. They allow the second most receiving yards per game to the position. They allow the third most receptions per game to the position. They're just not that good. They're sneakily bad against running backs now. After they've been referred to as a pass funnel to wide receivers all season, they've just become a true pass funnel to every position here, and that includes the running backs, where they've started to really struggle against in the past several weeks there. Cook's hit this over in 9 of 14 games this season, which we love to see. And obviously the fact that the Bills are still, going for a playoff spot, they're going to play hard all the way through there. I expect Brady to get really creative once again here, attack the linebackers of the Chargers, attack the safeties, Both of those position groups have been below average for the Chargers this season. I expect Cook to get there pretty much with ease at this point. We know how much Josh Allen likes to dump the ball off and check it down, especially if he has some pressure from the Chargers, which is always possible there.
Yeah, and you see with Joel Brady, the Bills are targeting Cook, not even just like on a check down at the line of scrimmage. He's running downfield, so that would be that's perfect for your bet as well. And it might be a little too low at 12.5 because Cook is just thriving in this new scheme. I like it. Moving on to my next one, we're heading to Pittsburgh and the Bengals and Steelers game. I like T. Higgins over 60.5 receiving yards. We're keeping it simple here. It's really just about Jamar Chase is out. T. Higgins is now the top target on the team. Jake Browning is playing well for the Bengals. Been a big surprise. The Steelers' pass defense in the last 2 games has not been good. They've, I believe, in 2 games allowed 6 touchdowns between Minshew and Bailey Zappi. They were able to move the ball. I think Browning should be able to as well here. And I got an interesting stat. 4 games without Jamar Chase last season. T. Higgins in 3 of those 4 games went for 80-plus yards. And in 2 of those 4 games went for 100-plus receiving yards. One of those 4 games was against the Steelers, where he put up over 140 yards. Now, we don't need him to do that. We just need him to get 61 or more. I know Joey Porter Jr., the rookie corner on the Steelers, has been quite good, but I'm not going to let that deter me from taking Higgins here, considering the heavy volume that he's likely to see. And, you know, the Steelers' overall struggles defending the pass and Jake Browning's surprising emergence. So give me T. Higgins over 60.5 receiving yards.
Yeah, I feel like it's really unfair to write off T. Higgins at all. We know he can do pretty much the unthinkable. We just saw him do the unthinkable last week with his touchdown catch at the end of the game, which was possibly the best catch in the NFL this season. But I do think that he's just going to get his. You know, at this point, Browning doesn't have much choice but to target him with the fact that Chase is gone, probably out for the rest of the regular season.
Yeah.
He might even be out for a game in the playoffs. You know, it's going to be very tough to get Chase back at this point. So, you know, I do like relying on Higgins there. And, you know, this is a number that he should be able to beat. I'm not too worried about Joey Porter Jr. It'll depend. It'll really depend if he shadows him. I don't know if we're gonna see shadow coverage from Joey Porter in this case, but we shall see.
Yeah. And we got a question in the chat from Wes about tonight's Thursday Nighter. Stick to the end. We're gonna get right into that Rams game, and you'll find out what we like in that. But moving on to the betting board pick, your next one, you like Rachaad White, who has just been like one of the most consistent running backs in fantasy football. I missed on him. Wish I had some shares. I do not. But what do you like with Rachaad White?
Yeah, and I unfortunately missed the early number here. I only took this morning. I got it at 24.5, but I missed the early number at 22.5, which I looked at on Tuesday, and I was like, damn, I should take this, but I just didn't take it. I'm paying for my mistake now, but I'm still liking this number. White's been over this in 8 of 14 games. He's been pretty much the main check down target for the Buccaneers, and Baker has absolutely been a check down magnet lately. Look, Jacksonville, they do a couple things. They rush the passer a lot, which is going to put the Bucs offense on a little bit of a spot, trying to scramble around, get the ball out. White will be there for the checkdowns there. And then they're really bad against receiving backs. You know, I just talked about the Chargers, who are the second worst team against running backs. Well, the Jaguars are third worst against running backs in the receiving game this year, letting up 46.7 receiving yards per game, and 11 running backs have hit the over on this number versus the Jaguars this season. The Jaguars simply just give up receiving yards, and they give up nice little chunks at a time. So I'm looking for Rachaad White to keep being a massive piece of this offense. He's been an absolute revelation, for fantasy football and for sports betting. He was massively inefficient over the first few weeks of the season, But ever since then, he's really turned it around. His efficiency numbers, are not quite where we would like them to be, but he's been rushing for a ton, and he's seeing so many touches in this offense that it's hard to not believe that he can get there. With him getting to at least four catches in 5 games this season, I definitely believe that he'll be able to get 25 yards in this game.
Yeah, I love it. Like you said, Jags struggle against receiving running backs. Rashad White, heavy volume. Good, not really that much to ask considering how many times he gets check downs per game. Rashad White over 24.5. Nice pick. You have a bonus one. You're buying into the narrative of Boston Scott versus the Giants. You like Boston Scott anytime touchdown. I went against this one on Twitter, but let's lay out your case. Boston Scott anytime touchdown.
Yeah, and look, this is a pick that I'm always going to take because you never know what's going to happen in these games. If there's, some sort of schedule, and planning, I always will believe that the Eagles want to feed Boston Scott against the Giants because they do it so much. I do not care that he is the third running back and has seen substantially less touches this season because his stats against the Giants since 2019 are just incredible. As, literally seeing an average of six carries per game since 2019. But against the Giants, he has 8 games against them. 10.75 carries per game, 51.7 rushing yards per game, and he has 9 total touchdowns in this game. He's averaging over a touchdown a game against the Giants. I don't think we've ever seen this much of a player-specific stat than what we're looking at right here with Boston Scott. They don't call him the Giant Killer for nothing, despite the fact that he's shorter than I am. I love Boston Scott. He's one of my favorite players, just his energy, everything he offers. And look, I would not be surprised if they work in some packages for him. The Eagles are very, very good at working in specific packages for smaller players. They did it right away with Julio Jones in his first couple of games as an Eagle. I wouldn't be shocked if they find a way to, listen to the narrative. Nick Sirianni is one of those guys that loves a good narrative for himself, and I wouldn't be shocked if he follows it here. It's 5-1. I don't think it's 5-1 anymore. Last I saw it was down to plus 280 on DraftKings. I would not take that number. I would look for a better number. The shortest I would take this at is 4-1, maybe 3.5-1. But if you can get a number up in those ranges still, I would go ahead and take it.
Yeah, so I was one of those people who, in previous seasons, Boston Scott coming into games against the Giants, he had more work, whereas in this one, he's barely being used. But I get it. Hey, if the value is there for you and you like the narrative, I could see it. I'm going to hear it. I'm going to probably get chirped a lot on Twitter if Scott scores a touchdown because I was really ripping on this one. But
I'll be first in line. You
yeah,
can't tell me how to spend my money, Frank.
Yeah, you'll be. Yeah, I know. You'll be first, and it will be deserved. But it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But we're now moving on to the Thursday night game. We got the Saints and Rams. Huge playoff implications for this game, and I'm going to start us off. I absolutely love the Rams against the spread. -4, -4.5, whatever you get it at. We got it at -4. And it's really comes down to the fact that this team is just totally different with Kyren Williams in the lineup. They're 6-4 with a plus 64 point differential with Williams. Without Williams, they're 1-3 with a minus 46 point differential. In those 4 losses with Kyren Williams in the lineup, they lost to what? The Ravens, the Eagles, the 49ers, and 3 of them. Those are 3 of the best teams in the NFL. So having Kyren there and having a really solid running game has helped Stafford. It's helped the team overall. And they're just totally different with him in the lineup. I think this is a team, the Rams, that are trending upward. They're that team that you don't want to face in the playoffs. They're at home. They're facing a Saints team that's not as good on the road. Derek Carr, let's face it, all year long, he has not been impressive. And it's really a low number, which you could make an argument that it's kind of fishy that it stayed at 4. I even saw it move to 3.5. But I'm going to fade that and look at that as noise. I just really think that the Rams are being a bit undervalued here, and I wouldn't be surprised if they blew out the Saints.
Yeah, this is the play that I went back and forth on. I ultimately decided not to take it. I do love the Rams in this spot. The total is kind of more interesting to me than the spread is. We can touch on that, as we get out of here, because I see Kip Heisterman had a
What's up,
comment
Kip?
about that. I want to get through the rest of our picks first, but I really do think the Rams are the much better team in this scenario. I haven't seen anything from the Saints to suggest that they are the better team here. I worry about their cornerbacks against Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, especially the Cooper Kupp versus Alontae Taylor matchup. Alontae Taylor has obviously been one of the worst slot cornerbacks in this NFL campaign. But I do like the Rams, and the number is very fishy to me. Um, the fact that the public is all over the Rams and it hasn't moved is a little bit
Yeah.
scary to me, but the public could be right. So we shall see what happens there. But if I was betting aside, I would also be on the Rams in this scenario.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. Definitely a little bit concerning about the movement or like the lack of movement, and everyone's on the Rams. But honestly, I'm quite confident that they roll here. Your next pick is someone who I love and who I'm on. Like I love him tonight, and I took one of his picks as well. Kyron Williams, you like over 111 and a half rushing plus receiving yards.
Yeah, and I want to make a quick note because I know you're on the over 88 and a half rushing yards. I'm going to tell you why I took it and then I cashed out of it and I took this instead. And the reason I did that is because taking this, where he's allowed to have the extra buffer of getting receiving yards if the public is wrong and the Saints, start to kind of overpower the Rams a little bit. Kyron can get involved in the passing game as good as anyone. He was really good at it while at Notre Dame. He's averaged just over 20 receiving yards per game this season. And, we've obviously seen him be plenty used in that passing game. And even with 2 fumbles last week, the Rams did not go away from him, which means they trust him implicitly at this point. He's averaging 21 carries per game. So I really like his rushing and receiving yards here because I think he can contribute really well in both. It gives you a little bit more of a buffer and it gives you a little bit more of range of outcomes in terms of what we can expect from a game script point of view there. So that's the reason I took the rushing receiving over the rushing yards. But the Rams just have a better offensive arsenal in this game than the Saints. They should be able to overpower them. The Saints have not been good against running backs recently. The last 3 games, they're allowing 135.3 rushing yards per game. They've allowed over 125 on the season. And we could see the offensive weapons for the Rams kind of be a little bit limited by the Saints. Perimeter corners Isaac Yiadom and Paulson Adebo have been good on the outside. I mentioned Alontae Taylor. I think Cooper Kupp's going to be all over him. And then I think they're going to look to Kyron Williams to really kind of put this game away if they get into position to do that. But at the same time, he's going to be one of their main pieces if they fall down in this game. So that's where I'm going there.
Yeah, I like the angle you have there in case that the game is close or the Saints unexpectedly have a lead. Yeah,
And
like
he's
you
also
said.
gone over this in each of his last 5 games.
Yeah. I think honestly because I'm on the over 88 and a half, like you said, I think we're both going to win. I think he's just going to go off. The Saints really struggle to defend the run and Kyron Williams gets fed. So, but I do get your, playing it safe with rushing receiving yards because I've been burned where I take only rushing yards, but they go off in receiving yards and that puts his total yards prop over, but I still lose and vice versa. So I totally get that. My next pick is Chris Olave, over 62 and a half receiving yards. Since the Rams bye in week 10, they have allowed 5 receivers to go at 80 or more receiving yards. Olave went with 90 or more receiving yards in 3 of his last 4 games. So he missed last week, but prior to that, 90 plus in 3 of his previous 4. He's likely to get fed. I think I'm predicting that the Saints are playing from behind. They have to air it out more, and that works out well with Olave. It's not really that much to ask. We only need 63 yards And given the vulnerabilities the Rams have shown in pass defense against receivers lately, I think Chris Olave goes over.
Yeah, I like this. It's going to feed into my last pick as well. But the Rams allow the most deep shots of any team in the NFL this year. 15.7% of the attempts against them are deep shots of 20 plus yards or more. And Olave, though we wish that he would be more of an intermediate to deep ball player, has been relied on as a major deep ball player for the Saints. And so has our next player here in Rashid Shaheed. And I took him to go over 17 and a half receiving yards for his longest reception. And that's a play that I really love in this game. And I arguably like it more than the Kyron Williams pick, despite the fact that it's only hit in 6 of 12 games. So we're working with a 50% hit rate here. He's 6 of 10 when Carr is the quarterback for the entire game. So there's been 3 games that Carr did not finish due to injury. One of those was the Minnesota game where Shaheed missed, and the other 2 games Shaheed went under. So and Carr didn't play more than 50% of the snaps. But 6 of 10 games for a 60% hit rate is much more palatable and much better there. Like I said, Rams are allowing the highest percentage of 20-plus yard pass plays at 15.7%. They've allowed 78 total attempts of 20-plus yards or more, which leads the NFL by at least 5. And Shaheed has really kind of been the guy for those deep shots there. It's been him and Olave, but Shaheed has been nearly exclusively deep shots. He's quick. He's very relied on by Derek Carr in this case. And despite the fact that he's more well used against man coverage, I expect him to be used heavily in zone because the Saints simply just don't have anybody else to rely on in this case. Michael Thomas is not going to play this game. Can't rely on A.T. Perry yet. Jimmy Graham is a fossil. So I'm looking for Shaheed to play a big part in this game. And I really like him to have a 18-plus yard reception in this one.
Yeah, I like that. We've seen him really have these spike weeks where he gets loose downfield. Wouldn't shock me to see that be the case tonight. Before we wrap up, we had Kip asking our thoughts on the total. For me, I didn't take it, but I would probably go with the over because I think, the Rams will be able to move the ball against this defense, and then the Saints will have to go with a pass-heavy approach like we were saying. I would lean over. What do you think?
It's funny. I actually was thinking about taking the under in this game, and I have been for a few days. It's dropped now to 45 on DraftKings after being at 45.5 when we got the lower thirds for this show. I'm kind of concerned with the offense here, and because this is a higher than expected total. I kind of expected this total to be at 43 and a half. For it to be all the way up at 45 kind of implies that we think the Saints are going to score multiple touchdowns and then have some extended drives end in field goals as well. I'm not quite sure we're going to see the Saints crack 20 points in this game. So, my perfect scenario is that the Rams win this one pretty comfortably, but it's like a 24-17 type of vibe of game. We got a prime time game, which is prime for an under here, despite the fact we've had 3 straight Thursday night football games go over. I think we're due for an under in this case. And this is 2 teams with solid defenses. So, I'm not quite sure why we're having such a high under hung on us here. It could just be, a trap for people to kind of get fooled into taking the unders here, but that doesn't really seem like the style that we're used to seeing here. So if I was betting this, I would actually take the under 45 in this case. I think there's a lot of avenues to them not going there. We have good secondaries on both sides. We have a really good rush defense for the Rams there. Both defenses are able to get to the quarterback pretty well. So, I think we're going to see a bit of defense in this game as well. So that's my thoughts on the under there. And I had a feeling we were going to disagree, which is why I wanted to save it.
Yeah, that was those are good points. Plus, like I said, Derek Carr has really struggled a lot of time.
It's not good.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if he just laid a total egg. So I get what you're saying. That's why I don't have a strong conviction on the over. I didn't play it, but should be an interesting game with massive playoff implications. But thank you to everyone for joining us. Happy holidays. Be sure to go to the game day for FanDuel promotions. Be sure to check out my fantasy and betting content along with Sam's. He's got some great stuff there, matchups to exploit, and much more. And we also help with the game day newsletter. Great fantasy content there. Sundays, we have our Twitter spaces where we answer questions. And check out my ranks there at the game day. And be sure to give us a follow. Me, F. Amarante, TFJ, Sam. What's your handle again?
Swagman95.
Swagman95. Love it. And last minute question, teaser with the Saints. Honestly, just pass on the teaser. Just take the Rams and Kyron Williams over, or even parlay all of our plays for today. But best of luck.